right, what's happening? What's happening, y'all? It's Brian Forbes. This is the Black Factor. Welcome. Welcome, y'all. Welcome. On this, y'all know I really am reluctant to use the term Thanksgiving. For the sake of description, I am, however, going to say use it. Y'all know if you don't know, you'll know by the time this is over. That I kind of got a problem with it. Ain't no need me lying, y'all. But anyway, and we're gonna talk about that today on this show because there's gonna be some interesting stuff that I'm going to get into in that regard. With that said, let me welcome my Black Factor family, and let me also welcome my Oh So Smooth radio family. And my Oh So Smooth radio family, y'all, well, I'm sure my Oh So Smooth radio family already know this, but my Black Factor family, because I've encouraged y'all to participate in the Oh So Smooth radio family by downloading the app and joining Oh So Smooth radio. Because let me tell you something, man, the music is off the chain. And it just so happens that this is the Oh So Smooth 10th year anniversary, y'all. My man DJ Shorty Smooth been doing this thing consistently for a very long time, and that is something to be commended and something to be proud of. On tomorrow, y'all, you can participate in the Oh So Smooth radio music lineup. We have a host. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3. Let's see, DJ Sir Ill, DJ Butter, DJ. Wait a minute, y'all. I gotta put my glasses on. DJ D Real, Tracy J, DJ Doc Rock, DJ Bolo, and Tim Jones will be in the building. And look, y'all, the music is going to be bananas, man. Now, if you want to know how to do that, all you got to do is download the Oh So Smooth radio app off of iTunes or in Play Store, whichever, use Android, Apple, whatever you use. But you can get that app, and man, listen, good music all day long tomorrow, y'all. Y'all can just put that thing on, cook your food, play with, hang out with your family and do that thing with the Oh So Smooth radio family. 10-year anniversary. DJ Shorty Smooth in the building, doing his thing. 10 years, y'all. You know how long? You know how consistent you got to be to make something like that happen. I think that is just a wonderful thing. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and hanging out. Just so you know, this is the Black Factor, where the truth has no room for your feelings. Because we going to give you the truth. we going to give it to you in the raw. So, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this game on the road. Wow, we back in the building. Okay, so look, y'all, tonight's show, we're going to discuss. Well, I'm gonna tell you like this. I was actually the beginning when I thought about today's show. What I had on my roster for today was actually going to deal with specifically with Thanksgiving. But what had happened was, today is a kind of a special day because we got the verdict from the Ahmaud Arbery case. And that, for me, is a very important issue, a very important topic that needs to be discussed. So I think that is what we're going to do today. We're going to actually have a discussion a little bit about, we're going to talk about Thanksgiving, but it's going to segue into the information dealing with the Ahmaud Arbery case. Hit that light for me. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So with that said, when I think about, ooh, excuse me, all of a sudden, when I think about Thanksgiving, y'all, it put me in the mind. I was listening to a guy today, commentator. Well, not a commentator. He's a writer, an American writer who is indigenous to this land, by the way. And he said something about, he mentioned, he talked about mythology when you talk about Thanksgiving. So that got me to thinking, maybe in America, I mean, in school, you think about it, we learn about Greek mythology, right? We learn about Zeus and all the other mythological characters that throughout history we've heard about. But I personally think I'm at the point now where I believe we probably need to talk about American mythology. I personally believe that America has a level of mythology on its own that, if not rivals, is greater than the mythology that we heard about from the Greeks. And I think Thanksgiving is part of that mythology. Because let's keep it 100, y'all. Now, I don't want y'all to misunderstand me. I'm not here to bash the holiday. I'm not here to knock down the idea that it's a beautiful thing that you get to hang out with your family. It's a time you get off from work and that kind of stuff. I'm cool with all of that. I mean, I'm gonna keep it 100. I got all my kids here in town with me. I am so thankful that they've all come to visit and hang out for the holiday. That part I love. That part, it's a good thing. But we have to look at where all of this was born from. And when we start looking at that, and you think about this country, and you think about the amount of lies that this country is founded on, the amount of untruths, the amount of falsehoods, and the mythology of what we know as everyday life. It's like fairy tales, y'all. But now here's the thing: if you listen to the stories that we were taught in school about the Pilgrims, right? Wait a minute. You know what? Before I even get into that, let me bring my co-host in, y'all, because she is on deck, ladies and gentlemen. My co-host. What we calling you this week? Tatum. We calling her Tatum this week, y'all. I get in trouble. I have to. She tells me I can't use her government name, so
Well, I suppose not that it matters because if they know who you are, then they know.
That's right. Hey, look, and you look just like me. My mini me, y'all. This is my mini me. All right, so
that's true.
You just feel free to jump in at any time because I know you are about that indigenous life. So, here's the thing: if we listen to the stories that were provided to us by the Pilgrims, or the stories that we've learned in school. Did y'all learn about this, Tatum, when you was in school? Did they teach you guys about the
of course,
the Thanksgiving?
Of course.
Did they give you the general, like the same stuff they gave us when we were in school about how the Pilgrims came and saved everybody and the whole nine?
Well, I don't. Now it's hard for me to remember. As I get older, like I don't remember, because I think by then they may have amended the books and been like, the Pilgrims were a little hungry and the Indians took, or I say Indians, which we've been over this, but they took pity upon them and may have threw them some corn,
threw some corn at them, hit them in the head with some corn, kind of like how Trump was throwing paper towels at the people in Puerto Rico. Okay.
Yes.
Hit them in the head with corn. All right.
So a little more benevolent than that, though. A little nicer.
So here's the thing. The Pilgrims and or the stories told by those descendants of those individuals, they would have you to believe, because of course, to the winner go the spoils. They would have you to believe that they actually came here with something to offer. That they came here. Yeah.
I'm joking. It wasn't smallpox.
See.
Communicable diseases. Cannibalism.
Don't stop there. Go on down your list. I'm
gonna stop. I will for now. So I'm gonna stop there. I'm just joking around, of course. But
okay.
That's
so
all I got.
So with that, they came here with the idea, or they would have you to believe historically that they came here with something to offer.
Right.
That there was some exchange of some sort, and that there was an equality at the table of giving thanks for what I have no idea. Anyway, actually, we're gonna talk about what the thanks was for, because let's tell the truth. There's a giving of thanks because they were wanting to thank those who they end up eventually referring to as savages and slaughtering.
Propaganda, it
right.
It is a very, how should I say, effective tool.
Right, look at Donald Trump. His lies. I mean, it's the big lie. Like Thanksgiving, it's the big lie. He's not even a good
propagandist. I feel like, never mind.
but let's put it into perspective. Thanksgiving is a big lie, just like the fact that he wanted. Okay.
I would say it's out of context.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can accept that.
It's the story is told out of context, and if you don't go past grade school or high school, or you don't look up the stuff, then they give you the kids version, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. So I give you the kids version, and it's like, okay, if you don't really care, though, you're not going to look into it.
But here's the thing, though. Since you mentioned that, the kids version, think about it this way. They, like, okay, for example, them not wanting to teach critical race theory, right? Because I actually heard one politician, white of course, talk about how he didn't want his kids to feel ashamed of their history or something like that. Well, here's the thing. The truth is the truth. And why not tell these people, these children, the truth about their history? Why not give them the information so that they can make a discerned decision on their own about where things lie in the world? They talk about it affecting them. Like, for example, people don't want to tell their kids the truth because, you know, there was I read a story where they were talking about how they would teach children about the indigenous of this country, and they would do it in ways that were sometimes insensitive. And so they had to have some sort of a reckoning in order for people to start to for the kids not to be offended, so to speak. Not any other. The problem was every time you hear these things, like for example, that white politician who went on about how he didn't want his kids to feel ashamed, but what he didn't say was he was worried about the black kids feeling ashamed about the way they were treated because of the color of their skin, because of the indoctrination that's taken place throughout the history of this country. See, they're only worried about how their children see things, not ours.
Well, I'm going to say something
Speak
controversial here.
Go ahead.
I feel like a lot of black parents don't care how their children see themselves. You know, the first thing they want to do, you know, like slaves, and we got to watch Roots, and, you know, just a bunch of other...
But that's indoctrination.
But black people willingly indoctrinate their kids into that.
But now, wait a minute. Okay,
in my opinion.
Okay, hold on. No. What you said has validity. However, let's take it back one further. The only reason they think that is because of the way society has taught us to view ourselves, because of our lack of control of our own image.
Now, I agree with that. But then, okay, well, let's look at it now. Because now, let's see. So, I'm a millennial. So, how many generations is this? You know, I had the blessing of knowing my great-grandparents, who, of course, their generation, like, no, they had no control over how they seen their image. But, like, now in 2021, almost 22, you know, a lot of black celebrities will willingly continue to partake in old stereotypes just so they can have, you know, some work. You know, they perpetuate it. And then a lot of I feel like the black community, black American community specifically, we will happily consume, like, clownery that's, like, making fun of us still. Even though we know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we spoke out more, we're like, okay, we're all on board, like, we really don't like this. Like, I would say with rap music right now, like, that lady Dolores Tucker, like, she very much predicted what would happen. And now, here we are.
Yeah, she did.
You know?
She definitely had
she's
something
owed
to say
an
about
apology,
it.
You know, and people were calling her, you know, like Tupac. Like, I listened to the song, like, How Do You Want It? I was like, he said F Dolores Tucker? Like, I never knew that, because, I mean, I heard the song as a kid, but, like, I didn't even know who Dolores Tucker was. But so I'm saying all this to say, it's like, you know, there's someone always happy to bring our image down. But now we have the internet. So, like, how we're talking about Harder They Fall. People have the ability to support and get work out there that, like, puts us in a better image. Because, like, slavery is, like, one small portion of our history.
But
like,
I do think we're headed in that direction.
Yeah, I think we are now. And there's no excuse now. Like, you can't continue to blame the clear people for these portrayals. You know, we have people that will, you know, willingly, like, we were watching SNL last week, and, like, this one of the black actors on there, like, happily played the sapphire stereotype, and I'm like, again, this has been going on for, like, over 100 years now. And I'm like, you would willingly sign up to do this? Like, I remember when I was in high school, one of my friends.
Okay, wait. No. I want you to explain the sapphire stereotype.
Okay.
The only reason I'm saying that is because when we make certain references, I want to make sure that are not necessarily mainstream. I want to make sure that everybody understands it. So give us a reference. So
sapphire is, like, the emasculating, like, angry black woman who, like, comes in and clowns a black man and, like, because it's actually the episode Jonathan Majors was on SNL, and, like, she comes in and she's like, "You're broken, you ain't got a job," and, like, screaming and snapping her neck. And I'm like, this is so weird. like so weird. Like, why would they do this? And I was gonna bring a point to my own personal life. I remember when YouTube first came out, I had some friends, they wanted me to like act in this part, and they wanted me to like do that, and I was like, hell no, like I'm not doing that. Like,
Right.
I was like, first of all, let's go on the internet, and I'm like, no, because that's not even how I am. I'm like, why would y'all ask me to do that? Like, why would you? You know what I'm saying?
Donald Thompson said Amos and Andy reference, right?
Yeah, so I don't know who that is. So I don't know. I don't know these people.
Amos and Andy, they definitely had. It was extremely stereotypical type behavior from two black characters. There's
different ones. Like they have names for them now. Like there's the Jezebel, the Sapphire, like the Buck. Mm-hmm. Was it like the Step and Fetch It? Kind of, so there's probably a few more than that, but those are the ones like I know for sure. So, okay. But let's circle back around because we were talking about like image.
Right.
So now I think, as you were saying, like black kids and how they feel about things, like parents now have the ability. I mean, you guys did it. You know, we always knew slavery was the thing that had happened, but we were never like, this is all of our history. Like, we always had access to books and information. Like, I remember being in high school, I'm like, I already knew about the Moors, and like one of my teachers got mad that I brought it up. He was like, what would you say? And that was way before, people were watching that on YouTube, and like I already, knew about that. So I knew there was like different ways that black people had existed over time, even if I didn't have all of the information that I went on to like learn. But, it gives black children a different context of, like, how to understand themselves. And, like, there is no excuse in 2022, because we're going to move it up, 2022, for us to, like, for parents not to take control of that. Like, why let the school books determine what it's going to be? Because even they could go to school, but they can come home and learn what they want, It doesn't have to be all the time.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of people use school as a babysitter rather than an educational institution anyway.
And now what happens to their children? That's their fault.
Yeah, it's unfortunate,
nobody
though.
Tell you to do that.
It takes a village, young lady. Sometimes we need others.
There was a debate online recently if that takes a village was actually just people trying to guilt trip their family into unpaid labor.
Oh, alrighty then.
And I was like, well, I don't know, because I don't have kids, so I was like, I don't know, but I was like, okay, that's a way to look at it, I suppose.
So in regard to in regard to this particular situation where the native or the indigenous were breaking bread with the pilgrims,
yes.
I think that it's safe to say that the thanks is given because they kept them from basically perishing. Because of the,
right. Well, we'll look at this
land.
Two ways. So for now, the tribe that participated in what is called the original Thanksgiving with the Jamestown, like English pilgrims, because, I like to name names, so we're going to get real specific. That was the Wampanoag. Now, I cannot for the life of me remember, my brain cells are fighting for their life, but I can't remember the name. So the Wampanoag is not their actual name. On down the line, some stuff popped off, and then the colonizers were like, y'all can't call yourselves your original tribe name no more. So you were henceforth known as the Wampanoag. And this is the case with like a lot of tribes. So like the names we know them by are not their true names, which that's a whole other rabbit hole. But to your point, so the Wampanoag, which are from like Martha's Vineyard, like Cape Cod, like all up in that region, they traditionally had a harvest festival where they give thanks like to their gods and to the earth for being abundant, which we know America is abundant land, fertile land. They would give thanks, and they're like, thank you. We ate another year, we survived, because they also they were farmers. So they're like, all right, thank you. Now then they saw these like bestraggled pilgrims like digging in graves, eating bones, and just doing weird stuff, and they're like, you know what?
That was the cannibalism part.
Yeah, because they did do the. They went back and the archaeologists went back and dug up the graves in like Jamestown, and they're like, yeah, they're like these little knife marks on the bones and stuff. So they were like eating like the dead bodies and stuff like that.
Wow, that's neat.
So they were thankful for sure.
Well, yeah, and then from there, here's the other thing about Thanksgiving. Basically, you had a group of white folks show up on a boat. Say, man, this sure is a nice place. I think we'll take it. And you all have to move. And I think that's, the beginning of what would be considered state-sponsored violence and genocide. Legal, of course, because, once they, when they make their laws and they decide, well, this is the law, now everybody, regardless of what your traditions or whatever else were on this nation, went down the toilet. and so they had to abide by whatever whatever that was. And I think that when we celebrate on the level of, I guess, the way we were taught, because I can safely say that I was taught this holiday as a tradition throughout my education system by people who felt the same way. You know, hey, this is the way what we know. And when you learn these things, you think that, oh yeah, we're giving thanks, and then they dress you up in little Indian costumes and
turkeys
and talk about turkeys and all this kind of, which none of which goes together. It's just a bunch of stuff tossed together for the commercialization of a holiday.
Actually, I hate to be the person.
Look. If you know something I don't, speak on it.
So let's talk about why turkeys are associated with Thanksgiving. Well, at least part of it. So now I've heard different things. So I'm just throwing this out there for everybody. Mm-hmm. So first thing, I've heard that at least the, how should we say, Eastern Seaboard tribes didn't necessarily eat turkey. But I don't know if I believe that. But I haven't been able to find more information. So I've heard that they did not eat turkey. Now, and I want a disclaimer here. Turkey is indigenous to America. So this is a traditional, like, American food. Like, it's, you know, our one of our national birds, like an eagle, but it could also be a turkey. Like, you know, because they don't, like, I don't know if they exist anywhere else. Let me not say that. But anyway, they're one of our animals. So
wild turkey.
Yeah, like
that's the bottle for wild turkey. No.
Turkeys are like indigenous, and then like the squash that you see, they're like, oh, and the pumpkins, like all of that, and that's like a fall harvest food, because you know, gardening, I've had to learn this, so you can harvest like beans, corn, pumpkin like late in the fall, depending on what part of the country you're in, right? So it's around the time like Thanksgiving, because for all, I don't know if do you know if like the original time was November? Because November seems kind of late
for the holiday.
Yeah, like it seems kind of late.
Don't make me lie.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
I don't.
We'll have to look into
that. You know
that.
what? I'm glad you. We're gonna have to look that up. I don't know.
Because it seems late for like the Eastern Seaboard, unless the weather was different like 500 years ago. Because
that is true, because that would be too late really to harvest.
For harvest, yeah. Like they're not in Texas. Like we can still be harvesting here, but you know that's not the case there. So
right.
So a lot of the dishes that we associate with Thanksgiving, I say at least in Black people's houses, they are. But the turkey everyone eats, but like, you know, a lot of the like potato dishes and squash and all of that, sweet potato pie, like that's all like indigenous food.
Well, the point was that even though like traditionally, I guess that's that's a thing. No. That's why you're here, baby. This is what we do. We got time. We got time. But the whole thing is that we've all been indoctrinated to some degree into this system of thinking and this system of sort of celebration. But then when you get down to the root of what the celebration is actually about and why it is and how it started, it becomes a little more disturbing. And I think that's partially why they try as hard as they can to keep those conversations from taking place. And of course, again, not wanting to teach critical race theory, because let's be honest, if critical race theory actually became a thing in the education system, they would have to teach that about indigenous as well.
Wait, can we backtrack? What is?
Yeah,
I've been actively avoiding this critical race theory stuff because like every time I see it, I'm just like. So I need you to explain like what, because I hear people screaming about it, but I've refused to look into it.
Here's what it is. Right now, and this plays into the whole idea of the mythology of America. Mm-hmm. Okay, with critical race theory, excuse me, what you're dealing with is actually telling the truth about history, about understanding why our society has been divided and has moved in the directions that it has, why it's done that, and when it and how people have become indoctrinated to these different things. Just like how we're talking about Thanksgiving. Okay, so it would cause the education system to be honest and upfront about the fact that they treated black bodies like livestock. It would make them have to be honest about having come in and committed genocide against an entire race of people in order to steal their land, and then steal black folks, bring them here,
steal black people's labor,
steal their labor, build this whole nation, and then claim it all as this is ours. We did this.
Or my favorite lie, immigrants built this. And it's like,
Yes.
This is
Exactly.
warfare. This
Exactly.
is genocide and warfare.
All of that is part of critical race theory. It's all
Okay.
a part of understanding or basically telling the truth. That's the long and the short of it is that is what it amounts to. It amounts to having to be honest and tell the truth about how we got where we are. So don't avoid the topic. It's a very important topic.
I was like, one day I'm gonna look into this.
Right. And so what ends up happening is that, I mean, even the indigenous were enslaved. They bought and sold black folks. They claim that, they built this land, but they don't mention the free labor, the stolen land, and everything else that they took in the name of the king to do it all.
Let's just include the stolen crops while we're here, because none of the crops grown that the slaves were working on, they're not from Europe.
Well, and then there's that, and all of that led to the wealth of everybody but us. So it would require a complete revamp of the history books. It would require them to tell the truth. But then it would go back to what I discussed earlier when I said then they would have to tell their children the truth. See, forget our children and how they feel about themselves because of the automatic feelings that come from looking through books, being taught history where the only people who did anything historically were all white folks. And just by virtue of not seeing your own people and talking about those people and their contributions to history and to our society, you automatically think, well, black people didn't do nothing. But they don't tell you about the man who was the first one to do open heart surgery. See, Daniel Hale Williams. They don't tell you about the man who invented the stoplight. They don't tell you about the man who created radiators. They don't tell you about the man, while they talking about the light bulb, without whom the light bulb wouldn't exist. Another black man. See, the list goes on and on and on, but these are the people they left out of the history books. And that would mean they would have to go back and include the whole truth and not the mythological stories that they want you to believe.
Well, I think believing the myth is what keeps things together here. This country was always supposed to be for mediocre people who failed back in Europe. It was supposed to be, a refugee camp, a debtor's jail,
Yes. Yep. People
like,
don't know that part.
What are the prisoner of war, places to hold people? This was.
Do you realize that if we are not careful, and this is just an example, let's use Donald Trump for example, and his big lie.
Does it have to be?
No, listen to me.
No, I believe you.
Check it out. But check this out. He insists that he won that election. If we are not careful, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, it will read in the history books that he really won the election, but it was stolen.
I don't foresee
that. It depends on who's in power.
Well,
see,
that's
this is why you say you see, and this is how these things get. This is how these things slip through the cracks. Do you know how many other stories historically that actually probably went the same way, but became the fiction became fact only because they said it enough times and enough of the right people repeated it, and before you know it, that became the story.
I think we can use another example of the story of Columbus, or just America in general, because since we're talking about Thanksgiving, the Wampanoag had been dealing with Europeans for 100 years already before they finally were able to and really had been longer than that, because it's going back to the 1500s, when the Spanish came over here first, and they went all what's that man's name, De Soto, so going in and out, but then it's well, Columbus just was the first person, and it was okay, but there was a lot of other people in the meantime that were going in and out. You just kind of don't hear about them at all.
Right. Well, see, and that's another thing. Look at all of the people who, historically speaking, never got a mention, never talked about.
Yeah, there's so many people.
Right. And so there's a lot there. And this is my whole point about history. We get what's given, we get what's left, we get what we can out of it. I mean, what we're allowed to get based on who's telling the story.
Well, I just had this thought too, the mythology that they put in the textbooks is this idea, because it's people come here to well, not so much now, but
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, they would come here to lose their identity, to become quote unquote white, to ascend into like, clear people hierarchy, aspiring to be a WASP. So
Mm-hmm.
they would change their names, get rid of anything that made them ethnic,
Right.
and they would come here to do that. And that textbook gives
Drop three
all,
letters out of their name.
yeah, like just completely switching it up. You're like, oh no, we're WASP too. We're gonna, our last name was some crazy Polish or Scandinavian last name, and now it's gonna be like John. Like we're gonna pretend that we're English too, right?
Right.
So, but I feel like the mythology that everyone, like when you come here, these people wanted to buy into that WASP clear peopleness. Like they wanted that brand, they wanted to assimilate, they wanted to consume that product, and the textbook is a way to push the marketing campaign, like it's what they wanted to buy into. So it's like to change that would kind of throw things off, may not have people so much assimilating as much as they'd want to.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because as long as, being clear is aspirational for them,
Well,
and everyone can be on the same page. It's what they wanted to buy into.
sorry about
So
that. I had to cut that down. So, okay. Well, now with that said, we're gonna skip, not really skip, but we're gonna kind of segue into this because when we start talking about the stories and the way these stories are told, right? With this, with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, and with the Ahmaud Arbery murder case that just concluded today, thankfully. A couple of things, well, one thing in particular stands out in my mind about these cases. And that is, in both of these cases, both of these individuals claim self-defense. Kyle Rittenhouse claimed self-defense after having killed 2 people and injuring a third. And when you think about it, here's the funny part about those self-defense cases. On both occasions, an individual, and this is going to show you how this narrative can historically change if we're not careful. In both cases, the story was, yeah, I had my gun, but I was afraid somebody was going to take it from me. Kyle Rittenhouse claimed that he was worried about somebody taking it from him, so he had it strapped to his back, and he didn't want nobody to take his gun. If somebody took his gun, you know what was going to happen. First of all, you brought the damn gun. In the Ahmaud Arbery case, McMichaels, when Arbery finally got tired of being chased for 5 minutes running, can you imagine a dead run for 5 minutes being chased by
well, I know I
2
would be
pickup
dead.
trucks?
Because I can't run for 5 minutes.
And being cornered, and he finally decided to try and defend himself because technically he was the one who should have been exercising self-defense, which I think he was. And the guy goes, "Oh well, he hit me and he grabbed my gun." Again, but you brought the gun and the intent to use it. Now, the difference in these 2 cases is that one of these people got to go home. Kyle Rittenhouse went home because his lawyer was able to prove that he didn't have any intentions to kill anyone, even though he did, but it was a self-defense move. I personally think the prosecution botched that case. That's just my opinion, based on what I saw. Now, in the Ahmaud Arbery murder trial with the McMichaels, they today were found guilty on the majority of those charges, which I don't have any bad feelings about that. Because Ahmaud Arbery should not be dead. I just want to know why they thought, in both cases, that you should bring a gun to a situation and then be afraid that you're going to lose the gun. If you're that afraid that you can't control your weapon, then you should not have one. And that goes back to the old adage. It ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. See, in both cases, they were worried about somebody turning their gun on them. One of them, we got, and I don't even want to call it justice because Ahmaud Arbery is still dead. And we know that this is only a drop in the bucket in terms of what we should be receiving where justice is concerned. Now, here is the point that I want to really get to, the real root of this issue in particular when it comes to the Ahmaud Arbery case. I want to talk about the history of citizens' arrest. See, now is the point where I give y'all, where I drop the history on you. Y'all know how I do. And people think that the citizens' arrest law is something that is legitimate and that it should be, that they should have actually had an opportunity to fight their case on. Well, here's the deal. The current version of Georgia citizens arrest law, now this was before, I think they just actually revised it because this is from 2010. It states that a private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, a private party may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Now, my question is, if you commit a crime and you running away, you got to be a pretty bold person to think you can just stop somebody and without consequence. A private individual who makes a citizen's arrest is instructed without any unnecessary delay to take the person arrested before a judicial officer or deliver the person and all effects removed from him to a peace officer of the state. Now, this is Georgia in particular. Georgia's laws were formally codified in 1861. Now, I want to show y'all just how old this law is and why. Georgia's laws were formally codified in 1861 by Thomas Cobb, a lawyer and slaveholder, bookmark that, who died at the Battle of Fredericksburg in 1862. It was the first formal codification of state common law in the United States. It was also racist. In the original code, now see, this again, we're going back. Understand why a citizen's arrest law was ever put into place, with the whole origin of it was about slavery. Now, this guy was a lawyer and a slaveholder. It was the first formal codification, state common law in the United States. It was also racist. In the original code, African Americans were assumed to be enslaved unless they could prove free status. Georgia citizens arrest statutes were first entered into the law code of Georgia in 1863. Slaves. Thomas Cobb was the author of an inquiry into the law of Negro slavery in the United States of America in 1858. In the book, Cobb argued, this inquiry into the physical, mental, and moral development of the Negro race seems to point them clearly as peculiarly fitted for a laborious class. In other words, we weren't good for anything else, according to this person. The physical frame is capable of great and long-continued exertion. Their mental capacity renders them incapable of successful self-development and yet adapts them for the direction of the wiser race. In other words, they were meant to work long, hard hours and take directions from white people. That's that phrase right there broken down. Their moral character renders them happy. You're supposed to be smiling while you work. Peaceful, yassa massa, contented and cheerful, in a status that would break the spirit and destroy the energies of the Caucasian or the Native American. Cobb's views on race and slavery shaped the Georgia legal code. Citizens arrest law, y'all. The Code of Georgia, was heavily revised after the 1865 passage of the 13th Amendment, which ended slavery in the United States, and has been revised and reenacted a number of times during the last 150 plus years. However, the Civil War era citizens arrest provision remained. In 1863, when the citizens arrest provision was added to the law code, slavery and Georgia law enforcement were in serious disarray. Georgian units of the Confederate Army were primarily stationed in Virginia. The Union Army was preparing to invade the state from Tennessee. Enslaved Africans were fleeing plantations to join Union forces. Confederate deserters were hiding in inaccessible Appalachian counties in the north and swamp regions in the south, some of whom we know were indigenous, right? That's
It's true.
With his criminal justice system in a state of collapse in 1863, code revision empowered white Georgians, to replace law enforcement and slave patrols to keep the enslaved black population under control. Now, what is that, y'all? That's deputizing. They've deputized white people to help maintain the law, to maintain this citizens arrest law, written in 1863. And again, I want you to think about what we've heard in this trial, where these three white men repeatedly ordered Ahmaud Arbery to stop, or they were going to shoot him or blow his brains out, and so on and so forth. It just shows you how the mindset, all the way back from a time of slavery, see, back to critical race theory, they still think like that. This is where this came from. After the Civil War, citizens' arrest supported the Ku Klux Klan violence against black Georgians. In 1868 alone, there were over 300 reported cases of Klan murdering or attempting to murder Georgia's black citizens, according to Mary Turner. Project Database, there were 454 documented lynching murders of black men and women in the state of Georgia between July 29, 1880 and April 28, 1930. The Fulton County Lynching Project lists 589 documented lynchings between 1877 and 1950. Lynchings of African American men and women in Georgia by white mobs, making citizens' arrests, have a particularly gruesome history. On January 22nd of 1912, 4 African Americans in Hamilton, 3 men and a woman, were citizens arrested and lynched, accused of killing a white planter who was sexually abusing black girls and women. On July 25, 1946, 2 African American couples were dragged from their car at Moore's Ford in Walton County and shot about 60 times by a mob of white men, making a citizen's arrest. No one was ever charged with their murders. At 1 p.m. on February 23rd of 2020, a 25-year-old black man named Ahmaud Arbery was killed by 2 white men, Gregory McMichael and his son Travis McMichael. His executioners told police they were in the process of making a citizen's arrest because they believed Arbery fit the description of a man suspected of break-ins in Glenn County. Now, they believed that by virtue of being 2 white men, that a black man who was running must have done something wrong and he should be stopped. That reminds me of a movie, and if y'all have not seen this movie, I encourage you to watch it. It is an old 70s movie. Tatum, didn't you watch that movie with me once, Watermelon Man, where the guy he wakes up a white guy. I mean, he wakes up black.
Yeah.
He's a white man, and he wakes up black, and he has to live the life of a black man. And he was a bit of a bigot. Mm-hmm. One day in that movie, he was leaving his house. Now, every morning he would get up and he'd catch the bus and he'd take off running down the street. He would wait for the bus and time it because he let the bus get past him, and then he'd run the bus down and catch it at the bus stop and jump on the bus. He would do that every day as a white man. Well, he did it as a black man as he became more comfortable with his black skin. And everybody on the street was yelling, "Stop him, stop that. He must have stole something. He must have did something. He's running. He's running. You must have done something." Which is the same way they did Ahmaud Arbery. And they felt, by virtue of being white males, that this black guy, because now mind you, other people had been in that same constructed house, the house that was being built, that were white. Nobody ever said a word to them. Nobody accused them of stealing anything or said anything about any of them doing anything. But they did chase down Ahmaud Arbery and murder him for running down the street. Citizens arrest. So this case lends toward the numbers of those murdered at the hands of white people, supposedly making citizens arrest, a law that was rooted and created in slavery as a means by which to control slave populations. Riri said jogging while black. Exactly. So this gives you some idea as to why this case was so problematic. Well, the slave catchers lost today. They inevitably, and here's the thing about the guilty verdicts today. Okay, in case you didn't know, yes, they were all found guilty of one thing or another. One thing that I thought was very, very good that I don't want to say I'm happy about, because there's nothing in this to be happy about, but one thing that I commend that jury for doing, they took the time and it seemingly went over every charge for each defendant in a way that allowed them to determine which charges they were guilty of and which ones they were not. And the Greg McMichael, the son, I believe, was guilty of all charges. The father was guilty of all charges except for malicious murder. And the third guy, can't remember his name, excuse me, I've heard it all day, it's slipping my mind at the moment, was guilty of aggravated assault, felony murder with a weapon, because he used his truck, but not malice murder. So he beat 2 of the murder charges and he caught the rest. And the bottom line here is, every last one of them is a mandatory, and this is Georgia sentencing laws ain't no punk, mandatory life in prison. The only decision that the judge is going to be able to make for them in his sentencing is whether or not they will get parole. Life without parole or life with parole. But here's the caveat. Even if they get life with the possibility of parole, they still got to do 40 years first. That's a death sentence for the 2 older.
Because they're not young.
Right. None of them are young. The only one who might have a shot is the son. He got to do 40 years before parole ever comes up, if he's even entitled to that in the future. But the other thing is this. They have federal charges coming in January that they have to deal with. The feds have already charged them with hate crime. So guess what? They're not out of the woods. Even if they appeal this case, which they're not going to win an appeal. They're not going to get it. Even because they would have to find the grounds by which to do it. But but here's the killing part. Their lawyer stood up and, thank you, Riri, she put William Bryant was the 3rd convicted defendant. Yes. Their lawyer stood up there and said, I don't want any more black pastors coming into the courtroom during the trial. To which 300 pastors showed up within the next week. I don't know why he thought that was a good thing. What bothers me is the fact that, let me not say it bothers me. What's typical of this situation is that those Georgia lawyers and those Georgia residents who sat there and committed this atrocity, and those who were attempting to protect them, have gotten a warning shot. No, they've gotten shot, with the idea that the rest of the world is not maintaining those ideas and ideologies that were once the norm. That jury was 11 white people and 1 black man, about 60 years old, who used to be law enforcement. They sent a clear message. They operated in the facts. They didn't operate with, well, these are some white men, we got to let them go. Like historically we have seen happen time and time again. Not today, baby. How you say that, Tatum? Tatum, how you do it? He said, not today, baby. What was that?
I don't even know.
I can't get you to do your not today, baby.
I don't even.
So.
You have to get me riled up.
Yeah, okay. You ain't riled up. I gotta get you riled up.
Yeah. I'm chilling.
Uh, the fact that their lawyer attempted to use a race-based argument throughout the entire trial. The fact that that one female lawyer stood up there and talked about Ahmaud Arbery's long, dirty toenails. The fact that she tried to villainize him and victim and turn her.
I said toenails.
And try to turn him into the villain and not the victim. Times are changing, y'all. I'm I have my struggles when it comes to the things that we see every day in society in America, where the race issues come to play. I do have my reservations. I have my issues. But I'm going to tell you like this. Even if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, I'm happy that the world is changing. I'm happy that people like my daughter here understand and don't view the world the way some older people do. Don't view the world the way we were taught to. Don't have to deal with some of the things that we had to deal with, and it's slowly getting better. Now, I'm going to tell y'all like this. I ain't going to lie to you. In the back of my mind, not even in the back of my mind, somewhere in the middle, I said, if these dudes get acquitted, I promise I'm leaving this country. I'm getting the hell out of here because we headed down a straight flush. It's just, I after watching that whole trial, I really could not find any reason why they would not be convicted on most of the charges. It went the way I thought it was going to go, and I'll be honest with y'all, I was nervous about it because it would have sent a very clear message to the people in this country about where we're headed. And I feel like, okay, well, maybe we didn't move too far forward, but we didn't move backwards this time. So I'm a little better with that. Just a little bit. But they continued to try to play the whole race card. You know, they tried to do it without using race or not saying the word or not bringing it into the game. But I'm just happy that some semblance of justice was served today. I needed to see that. I don't know about anybody else, but it's just a crazy thing, man, when we have gotten to the point where we even have to think about, we have to be up in arms, we have to be on pins and needles, and we're sitting there going, oh my God, how is this going to turn out? See, it just shows you the level of indoctrination we've all that's become a part of all of our lives. Because when it comes to certain folks, no matter how overwhelming the evidence is, we still worry about whether or not they're going to do the right thing. That's an issue. That's the elephant in the room. Just like how people will say, well, you've heard people, well, I don't see race. You black, I know, but I don't see race. You should see race. We should all see race, because that's like saying I don't see you for who you are. Just because I'm black doesn't make me a bad person. So don't say you don't see race. Say I don't judge you by the color of your skin, if that's what you choose to do. But you can't say I don't see race. If you're white, you're white. If you're Mexican, you're Mexican. If you're black, you're black. And the list goes on. That is the beauty of the world we live in. Diversity. The fact that you can view people for who they are. You just don't have to judge them for who they are. Judge their character, not their color. And the world would be a much better place. This ain't really a victory, because like I said, Ahmaud is not going to be at his mama's table tomorrow for Thanksgiving. But I do want to give shouts out to that prosecutor. She put on a hell of a case. I want to give shouts out to Reverend Al Sharpton. I want to give shout out to help me, what's the lawyer's name? Ben Crump. People talk real crazy about them guys being in these types of situations, but let's keep it 100. See, look at it. She biting her tongue back there. But here's the thing.
I didn't say anything.
But here's the thing.
Throw me under the
See
bus.
them millennials, they be talking crazy. But let me tell you something. Without these people, these cases never come to trial. They never get no attention shown to them. Without these people to force the hand of the system, these people don't get their day in court. This case almost never saw the light of day. Why? Because everybody in that little region down there in Brunswick, Georgia, was all in cahoots. Two of the district attorneys down there turned the case down. They recused themselves. Why? Because they had dealings with these killers, and they knew that it was going to be a problem coming down the pipe. They were smart. So that prosecutor came out of Cobb County all the way up in Atlanta. Marietta.
It's the same Cobb that was mentioned with the law.
No, yeah, it make you
probably
wonder.
is.
Make you wonder. It might be. I need to do that homework. That's a good idea. So the point is that they know the good old boy network is in full play. They knew it. They stayed away from it. Smart men. That's career saver right there. But the fact is that the district attorney down there in that county is facing criminal charges herself right now for this same reason. Because she did the wrong thing. There was no investigation. They almost got to sweep this under the rug. Without the Ben Crumps and the Al Sharptons and all the other people who contributed to making noise about this, the ones that they always say, oh my God, here they come, ambulance chasers. Well, guess what ambulances do? They make a lot of damn noise. And that's a good thing. And guess what? It ain't free either. Somebody got to pay them plane fares and them lawyer fees. All of it costs. But at the end of the day, justice under the law is supposed to be equal justice under the law. We know that that's not always true, but we do what we can to try and see results like we're seeing today. So that to me was a good thing.
I like.
Please speak up.
The point someone made that we vote for the DAs, which this keeps somebody put on under the comment voting for the district attorneys. Because also in the Kyle case, people were complaining about the judge, and then recently some judge, I don't know, some rapist, and the judge was like, we're not gonna send him to jail because he suffered enough. Something crazy. I don't remember what state that was in. So, when everyone gets up in arms about, this last election, for example, it's like, but Trump is so terrible. Oh my God. But I bet no one could name the judges and district attorneys and sheriffs that they should have been voting for while they were focused on 45.
Good point.
And useless Kamala and Biden. So I just, because, but I think they do that purposely. Like, they don't want you, because one of the judges, like, his term is up in 30 years. So it's like, when you are not paying attention to those, who the judges and district attorneys are going to be and the prosecutors, like, you're setting your whole community up for an L, like, potentially. And, especially for the black community, something like we should really be on top of if everyone claims to care, about all of these, like, racist things happening, because you can say you care when it's on the news and when Al Sharpton brought it to the attention, but if you're not actually actively working in the community to make a difference, if you're living in a black community at that, so you need to make sure, okay, who is the district attorney, who's the prosecutor, who's going to be the sheriff,
right?
The education board members, who are those people, because you can vote for them. And that's what really matters in an election. Like, of course the presidential, it matters, but, like, as we have seen time and time again with a lot of these cases, like, it's the local police departments and the sheriff departments and the school boards and, all
of that matters.
Who are those people that has that day-to-day effect on your children and families' life?
Because, and it's funny when you bring that up and you talk about, like, for example, with the school boards. Like, the school boards these are the people who handle the education, the things that your children learn. They're the ones who make the decisions about the books and what's in the books that the children use to learn from.
What money and all kind of crazy, all these little things that really, they have long-term, like, far-reaching consequences. And it's not to say the presidential elections don't, because especially 46, after all his nonsense, we most certainly will see some consequences in 45. But to the point, it's like these things are more immediate, like having these terrible judges sit over these cases. They're like, oh yeah, this guy like raped 5 kids. Well, I think he suffered enough emotionally. We're not going to send him to jail. So now you have a child molester living in your community.
Well, I mean,
about to snatch your children
while you playing, let's look at the Rittenhouse case.
Yeah,
they consistently, he's just a kid, give him a chance. He didn't. It was the accident. It happened. Blah blah blah. And the president invited him to the White House today. I think it was today or yesterday. And now they have offered him internships.
Excuse me, he doesn't even look like he can read. What does he need an internship for? To do what?
He has been offered congressional internships.
Well, I'm not surprised by this administration.
Let's also keep in mind that he has collected an awful lot of money over the last couple of years. The boy got money.
Well, actually, GoFundMe took his money down, so I think they have to
they?
Yeah, that happened apparently back. Because I stopped paying attention because if I gotta be honest, I just didn't care. So I just stopped. After I saw the initial thing, there was so much other stuff going on last year. Like my brain was fried. Working in a newsroom.
He's been held as a martyr. He's a hero now.
Well, I think we're coming to a weird cultural clash where for example, a lot of black people thought that black people were killed in that altercation, and I feel like the news at first tried to make it seem that way, and to get black people in their feelings and to get all riled up and go out marching and stomping around and stuff that has nothing to do with them. But also like last year we were saying a lot of people that were causing problems at the protest were clear men, so
right.
And we can't say for sure that the people that he shot were not some of the ones that were, the people that were burning down police stations, because those people that have been arrested for stuff. And not saying that they did that, but I'm just saying the demographic who was causing commotion at a lot of the protests tended to trend toward the people that got shot, right?
Right.
And we did see him, see them chase him down. So, and I'm saying all this to bring it on home. It's like, we're coming to a place where people are tired of, I think, the people with sense anyway, the two extremes, like the liberal extreme and the conservative extreme. And these people for the most part just sow seeds of discord and act crazy. Of course, last year you couldn't say anything bad about liberals unless you want to be called a Trump supporter. And especially the clear liberals, they take their how should you say, paternalism, and they feel like they know what's best and they want to go out to the protests and scream. Because I remember an incident from last year, because what was that, Portland, I believe.
Yeah, Oregon. They were tearing up Oregon.
All of these clear liberals with pronouns were yelling at black police officers like, "What are you doing? You're betraying your people, man. You need to fight the power, man." And the police officer is like, "What? Y'all need to chill, bro." He's like, "I mean, I understand y'all are upset." Because it actually happened in Colorado too, and some of the black officers were just like, why are y'all doing what? Not that we don't appreciate people speaking out for injustice, but it's also y'all are doing too much at the same time. So I feel like with the Kyle case, a lot of people are on his side, not necessarily because I'm not gonna say not, of course, because he shot people and people were happy to see people get shot at the protest, but it's also people are tired of the crazies, and I'm still not saying.
I think you're right. I think the middle people, the middle of the road folks, like us, a lot of people that I'm familiar with that are not so much extremists. I remember I had a conference call with some guys one day back when a lot of this unrest was going on, and I made I guess I made a mistake in the conversation. Because I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're a conservative. You're not even, you're not a liberal. You're conservative." And I'm like,
it's like, is that supposed to be an insult? Also, do I care?
But no. I think they were trying to make a point. The point they were making, because we had some fundamentally different ideas about certain things, but ultimately we kind of were on the same page. But we were in this conversation, and there were probably 6 or 7 people on there, and we were all having this conversation about these protests and things, right? So I said, well, I don't have a problem with people protesting. I don't have a problem with making our presence felt and so on and so forth. But I kind of do have a problem when people start destroying businesses and tearing up the infrastructure of
people
community.
Were for sure doing that.
But wait, I got jumped on for that. They were on me like, really, dude?
So
nah, man. We're gonna tear it all down. I'm like, yeah, nah, that ain't. I don't get it. And I think they were so radically motivated in the direction of destruction by any means necessary that it threw me off. Because while I believe in protest and I believe in getting what you want, I don't see destroying things that have nothing to do with your cause as a way to do it. Now, don't get it twisted. I do believe in hitting people in their pockets. That's a good way to go. But if you tear down my store,
right,
you hurting me, you not helping me.
Well, because last year, too, and this was hilarious. Like, it's not funny, but, like, in Colorado, again, because there's 5 black people left around there, right? Like, the actual native Coloradans. And at one point, there was a story about how they had to put black-owned business on the signs. Because, again, like, Colorado being majority clear, you know, they were cutting the fool. Like, when I say that they were acting a fool, like, I could go down, like, a list about 5 insane stories, and there was just, like, no reason for any of it. Like, they
and so just so y'all know, ladies and gentlemen, you wonder how my daughter know. She was a news producer, so she got to see all the stories.
Yes, and that's why, you know, I get so, which we have these conversations at home, and I get, like, very turned up about the plague and the protests and the rallies and everything, because it's like I'm seeing live uncut footage that no one else gets to see. And so I have to sit through this entire, like, press conference from the White House while everybody else was, like, eating Cheetos and playing on Facebook. So, like, you know, people get mad because my opinion does not match what, and I'm like, okay, well, I was sitting there, I saw the footage, I made my own opinion. So, again, like, in Colorado, them folks were cutting up. Like, for no reason, burning stuff down, like, tearing up stuff. And it was like, first of all, like, even in Portland, too, majority clear city, because Portland is a historically very racist Oregon in general. Like, you couldn't even move there if you were darker than a paper bag. Like, they want everybody up out of there. So, you know, and these people are harassing the black police officers and just being weird, you know. And that's why everybody asked me, like, did you support the protest? No. I did not. And it's like, I support the message. I will never, like, the police will never be judge and jury. They are not the executioners. But also, like, it was a whole smokescreen for clownery. What I call liberal clownery. And everybody was like, Antifa's great, man. This is great. We're going to fight the power. We're going to burn down these poor small businesses. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you? What's wrong with y'all? Like, who do you think? Do you think Walmart builds a community? Do you think that is how a community is built? You know, but they were all good. Like you said, those people were mad at you. But this is the type of, you know, and that's where I've come over the last year. Like, I'm really not with the liberals. Like, I'm not with it. Like, I want to hear about it. I don't hear from the conservatives either. Like, they both can be quiet, but I find myself leaning more conservative. Because I'm like, at least, or maybe this, like, moderate people. Like, we're all the moderates and we're just, like, meeting in the middle here. Because it's like, folks have lost their mind. Like, I have had it up to here. I've had it up past my eyebrows, like, because burning down police stations last year, and who was doing that? I'm not gonna say that there were no Negroes involved in any of those crimes, but for what I saw of all the people getting arrested, and then, like, last year, white people, they were shooting up on the highway with AK-47s, like, shot a bunch of people in the crowd. Who got arrested? Some white dude. Right. You know, and they were protesting for, what was his name? Elijah McClain, who's, shout out to his family, they are getting some money for that, because that's one, and see, that's also pissed me off. Like, he really deserved, like, I feel like the protests that some of the other people got. Like, he truly, like, was minding his business, and on top of which, he was disabled, or I think he was on the spectrum, and so that one, like, I felt more passionate. Like, that one pissed me off, and I felt like that family, like, really needed the support, but a lot of the clear folks came out and were, like, using it for their own means to, like, for anarchy. Like, that's what they wanted. They wanted anarchy, you know? And when the conservatives say, oh, you know, these liberals they just want anarchy and to loot, and they are right, because, like you were saying, like, they're right, because it's like, y'all took this, I mean, we know in Chicago, folks was breaking into the dollar store. What are you doing?
Breaking in trains. And
it was like, the protests aren't even over here. Why are you on 87th Street rummaging through the dollar store? What does that have to do with? What are you? The tore up. When I went there this summer, the Walmart was still in sham. The Walmart wasn't even open still because of what they did last summer. And you know who did that affect? All the elderly and the moms who needed a good place to go to get groceries. It's like, because y'all want to act a fool. Like, what's wrong with y'all? So, and it's just that's two different communities, but. The point being, you know, people used last year as an excuse to act a fool. Like, and, you know, unfortunately, I see that kind of stuff is, like, their excuse to up the police budget, you know, and to bring in more not anarchy, but, you know, more, like, authoritarianism and to crack down on folks.
Well, let me ask you this before we go. What do you think about the case with that just happened in Wisconsin with the guy driving through the crowd? Have you seen that?
I mean, when we were discussing it earlier, I was like, I don't know if that's like, because it was a Christmas parade, so that had nothing to do with anything.
He apparently this guy had a rap sheet as long as his table. It was some domestic violence, something going on. He had just ran his girlfriend over with that same truck.
Oh my God!
And was out on bail. And he's got an extensive record. He's been in jail multiple times. And then the guy turns around. He ran through the parade and he killed 6 people. Another little boy died today, I think. And he's been arraigned and he's been charged with murder for 5 already. And they're going to add the 6th one.
He wants to go to jail, and I think that's where they should send him.
Yeah. Do they have the death penalty in Wisconsin?
I'm not sure. Wisconsin's a weird place where it wants to be liberal, but it's also very conservative.
That's right. You live in Wisconsin. I forgot.
I did. I spent some time in Wisconsin, and not in Milwaukee. That's horse where everyone's like, "Oh, you were living in Milwaukee?" No.
You was out there in the sticks,
as we call it. I was in the woods. The woods.
The woods.
Yeah.
Not the woods. But the woods.
In the woods. Our neighbors were deer and the local bear.
Our neighbors were deer.
But I think that this just folks have.
Come over here, please, because you do that every time. You come in and you whisper and you expect us to hear you. We can't hear you.
I said that fool got $5 million bill.
In Wisconsin?
Yeah, it was a $5 million bail.
So he won't be getting bailed out.
No.
I mean, he clearly wants to be in jail, and I attribute his craziness to folks just cracking up after the last 18 months of the plague. And
one more thing I need to say.
We need you to say it on the microphone.
So when he drove past and ran over everybody, he went to this man's house and said that he was homeless. And the guy said his mom had just called him and talked about the sermon that she listened to on church online about homeless people and not to snub them and to help them.
Oh, God.
So he went to this guy's house, which was about 29 years old, and it's video that you can literally pull up where he was on the guy's porch on his ring, and he opened the door up and he said, yeah, he was homeless. He didn't know what was going on, and he saw a lot of animals.
And this is what makes you not want to help people.
He's going to jail.
The man let him in the house.
Oh.
Had him sitting on his couch, got him a drink, and they talked, and he used his cell phone. While he was using his cell phone, all the alerts were going off about a burgundy truck ran over somebody. So in the video, you see the burgundy truck sitting in his driveway.
Oh, that's
so
that
of the
photo.
Saw the burgundy truck in the driveway,
God.
and the police came and swarmed down on his house.
Wow. That's
so
crazy.
The guy said he started getting a little uncomfortable, and he said as soon as he did, they said, "Come on, let's go outside." The police came.
And see, that could have ended badly too.
Now,
what if the police decided to shoot
right,
up
and I was
the
just
house,
getting ready to say. Now, see, here's a situation where a person was being a good Samaritan, being a nice person to somebody, and this is why people don't want to help no damn body no more, because you got crazy folks like that running around. All right, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, my co-host Tatum, my mini-me, y'all, it's been fun. We gonna run. They got to get ready for y'all. Y'all got to cook Thanksgiving dinner. Well, we know Tatum ain't gonna cook nothing.
It's done already.
Tatum ain't
done. Tatum is done.
I don't go in the kitchen.
Done.
No.
Okay. Well, y'all, I got to check my eyelids for cracks, so it's about that time. I appreciate y'all coming in and hanging out with us and kicking it with me and my co-host over here, Miss Tatum. They love you, Tatum. Everybody loves you. You're a hit.
Woo.
Hey, y'all. Hey, listen. Show me some hearts if you want to see Tatum do her own show. I am trying to get this girl to do her own thing.
Why? So y'all can get me canceled? Y'all are gonna be mad.
She said she gonna get canceled. The cancel culture.
Y'all are gonna have somebody from the internet shows up at your front door. You're gonna be like, why? Tatum, what have you done? And I'll be like, Dad, this is your fault. So I just want you. But it's fine. I'll stop.
I told her she's gonna be a troll. At least she could get paid for it.
No, sure. I'll stop trolling Ollie Gall and I'll let me take it to the Nationals.
Look, Team Tatum. See that? See, Team Tatum.
Thanks, guys.
All right, y'all. Well, look, we appreciate y'all hanging out. Thank you for coming in and hanging out with us. It's about that time for us to get on down and do our
Happy Thanksgiving. Wait, there's one thing.
What?
So this is the 400th anniversary of Thanksgiving.
Is it?
Yeah, this year. I forgot to mention that when we were talking about Thanksgiving.
400th anniversary.
It is the 400th anniversary of the first Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
That's
See,
the day
trivia.
When the ship came in and they tricked them.
No,
well,
that ain't how that works.
That right. There's a whole like app. The cartoons, they make it like it was a short period of time, but it was like way longer than that. But yeah, more or less, yes. To answer your question.
Yeah.
400 years.
Huh. Very interesting. Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it here first. I learned something new tonight. This is the 400-year anniversary of Thanksgiving.
So happy Thanksgiving,
Go,
or
Tatum.
better yet, happy harvest, because we're not going
Right.
to celebrate
Happy
the Pilgrim version.
Indigenous
That's
peoples.
right. Let us praise to the ancestors. Shout out to them for surviving enslavement, genocide, smallpox, all manner of communicable diseases. Slavery. Did I say that already? All right, yeah. So thank them for allowing us to be here. And all the tasty food that we're going to eat, because it's all indigenous dishes.
You done?
Yes, I'm finished.
No, you're not. No, you're
I'm
not. You got
done.
something
No,
else to
I'm
say.
done.
You got something else.
No,
know
I
you got
am
some-
done. But happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for coming and hanging out and kicking it with us, me and Miss Tatum. We have had a fantastic time like we always do.
Yes, yes, yes.
This, y'all, has been the Black Factor, where the truth has no use for your feelings. Because y'all know what it is. Everybody have yourselves a fantastic holiday. Enjoy your families. Enjoy the food. Forget the thanks part of the giving. And enjoy.
It's harvest now.
Yeah. The harvest.
Harvest
That's it.
celebration.
Or somebody else called it Friendsgiving.
Friendsgiving.
Yeah,
but
that's
that's
it.
different. That's when you invite your single friends over and nobody has kids. That's like a millennial tradition because there's no kids and you're like in a city by yourself and you all have to congregate
Oh, is that what
together.
that is?
Yeah, that's what that's for.
Okay.
That's how
a
that
little
started.
So at
Okay.
our age, when your kids come back,
It's just regular Thanksgiving.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
for all the
Call it
sad
something
single
else.
people who haven't married and have no kids. That's Friendsgiving.
Oh
That's
my
what that's
God.
for.
All right. Damn it. All right, y'all. We out here. Peace.